Well, very lovely to be here with our 2023-24 heads of school, and we're going to be talking today a little bit about the college concept. Hopefully you've all got some idea of what that's about, and you'll have seen some of the developments going on around the old Montacute Wimborne building and in that vicinity. Just to remind you, the fact that the college hub, which we'll talk about in a little while, is going to be opening for all sixth form pupils in spring 2025, with upper sixth day pupils relocating to the college in September 25, and the upper sixth boarding pupils relocating to the locating to the college in September 26. So I'm going to hand over to Abby now, who I think is going to get us rolling.
So we've had a number of questions in they group into kind of rough themes. And our first theme surrounds the structure of the new college and the facilities it will offer.
So, Mr. Vessey, what opportunities will the college present to sixth formers that currently aren't on offer? And how will the college seek to improve the sixth form education experience as a whole? How will the college impact the structure of the typical school day for sixth formers?
Will lessons and tutor meetings happen in the college? And how will the Future Pathway Centre enhance the existing higher education and careers support services offered at Canford? And will these be available to fifth form students?
Great, well, thank you. And I think those were collated from conversations with other pupils, weren't they, as with the rest of the questions that we're going to address. So, well, in terms of the structure, the college is going to provide facilities which bring together the whole sixth form educationally and socially each day in a sixth form dedicated building, which is something we don't have at the moment. This will obviously help to broaden pupil networks. It'll also improve integration and connections across the whole sixth form, whether that be boarding day, boys and girls. And this will be much more reflective perhaps of a university or modern workplace environment with sort of open plan and hot desking and so on, which will be a really valuable transition experience, I think, as pupils move into their final 2 years at the school. And to further develop that sense of transition in the upper sixth, that year group will actually be based in the building in a residential sense too, with boarding and day lodge accommodation, and lower sixths will remain as part of their existing vertical houses for that first year in the sixth form. In terms of sixth form life, many of the rhythms of the school day are going to remain largely unchanged for the sixth form, with lessons, independent study time, co-curricular commitments, social time, all being part of the landscape. However, there will be scope, I think, for a much more flexible approach to some aspects of the sixth form provision and how that's organised, as well as how the evenings work for the upper sixth. And we'll work through details of that in due course, which we will very much look to develop in conjunction with pupil working groups over the coming months. For example, sixth form tutorials can take place in the college hub, but it doesn't preclude those happening elsewhere as now. Some lessons and certainly a broad range of educational enrichment activities will certainly be based in the hub. And in terms of the spaces, the hub, the lodge spaces, the residential areas will form three sides of a really lovely quad right in the heart of the school, close to the library and the theatre, the music school, sports centre, the main manor house and the academic teaching areas. And if you look at the booklet that went out a little while ago, you can get a sense of the facilities there. And those, I think, really will provide opportunities for the development of our sixth form offering over time, and will also actually enhance the whole school programme that we're developing. For example, we're currently looking at the Canford Futures programme for all year groups to ensure that really is truly dynamic and relevant for pupils, whether they're growing from the shells for fifth form into the sixth form, to give them a really clear awareness and understanding of both the global higher education opportunities, but also the skills and qualities needed in the 21st century workplace. We've done a lot of work with OC focus groups on that recently to try and get some up-to-date insight to feed into that strategy and that provision. So I hope that helps a little bit with those questions.
So, Mr. Vessey, there are a number of questions from our current pupils on how the new college will impact the current vertical house system that we have.
So we've had a number of key concerns about the idea of house spirit, including how will the college concept affect the current house system at Canford, how will the feel and dynamic of traditional houses change with the absence of the upper sixth, and how will upper sixth pupils in the college maintain a sense of house spirit.
Will year group sizes increase to compensate for the absence of upper sixth? And will the pupil intake in both Shells and lower sixth increase with the increased space available?
Sure, yeah. I mean, size-wise, with upper sixth pupils moving out of their existing house accommodation into the new college, the existing vertical houses will be slightly smaller, as they will have only 4 year groups from Shell to lower sixth. And the size of those groups in-house will remain similar now in the Shells to fifth form. But the lower sixth will increase a little bit, a small number in each house, as the sixth form will be bigger overall. Which is obviously part of the thinking, just to grow the school a little bit. The college is not designed to be simply another house. As such, it's designed and will be designed and run in a different way that provides perhaps an environment and experience which can't be created in a vertical house where you've got pupils aged from 13 to 18 in situ. Within the college, however, the vertical house year group bonds and connections and spirit will very much remain, and upper sixth pupils will retain their connection with and their loyalty to their vertical house. They'll compete for their house in a variety of competitions, wearing their house kit. There'll be lots of events and activities in the college, which continue to keep upper sixth pupils from those vertical houses closely linked to each other, but as well as attracting and bringing in younger year groups from their vertical house, so that they can keep that contact going. So, for example, the upper sixth might well invite the fourth form from their vertical house to a dinner in the college one evening that they've prepared and cooked, and that they then sort of host using the cooking facilities. So, whilst they'll be members, the upper sixth will be members of the college community. The aim is to keep those house connections and the house spirit very much alive over that year, both within the group that moves across to the college through things they do together in that college community, but also through a whole plethora of other activities where they engage with their vertical house, and indeed where they go back to visit their vertical house.
Thank you, Mr. Vessey. One thing that pupils and parents really value at Canford is the pastoral care and tutoring system that's currently available. So that is our next theme, and we've had a few questions in and amongst that.
How will the relationship change between an upper sixth pupil and their previous house or housemaster?
And following on from that, how will the continuity of pastoral care and support be maintained through the sixth form years?
Yeah, okay. I mean, the vertical house master or mistress will no longer be directly responsible for the day-to-day supervision and pastoral care of the upper sixth pupils. The day-to-day pastoral welfare, that well-being, will be overseen by the college pastoral team, led by the college pastoral dean and the 2 assistant college pastoral deans. The college pastoral team will be very closely involved in the detailed pastoral and educational transition of pupils from lower sixth to upper sixth, and they will work really closely with those vertical house masters and mistresses, but also with the head of college, the assistant head college, and sixth form tutors to ensure there is a continuity of knowledge, of care, communication involving both pupils and parents through that transition process. Upper sixth pupils will certainly keep in touch informally with their vertical house HUSM, where that relationship is strong, as indeed they would, I'm sure, with matrons and so on, and indeed as they do now with other members of staff with whom they've built close ties and connections through other contexts of school life. We will have specialist sixth form tutors who will guide and support their tutees through the 2 sixth form years at Canford, and that will ensure that continuity of care and connection as the pupils move from their old vertical houses to the college. I think a key aspect of this structure will be that upper sixth pupils will be in a pastoral environment which is focused specifically on their very particular needs in a crucial year, as they need to prepare for and be supported in the transition to life beyond school. And that is something that they will be faced with rapidly after leaving Canford. College pastoral dean and the pastoral team in the college, together with the assistant head college and the sixth form tutors, will have that as their key focus. Whereas HUSMs currently and their house teams have to manage the often very different needs across 5 year groups. So there will be very much connection and continuity. Relationships will continue, but obviously the direct responsibility will move.
Thank you, Mr. Vessey. Our next theme is about how exactly the college will fit into the whole school life.
So we've had a number of questions primarily around kind of the sixth form and junior access to the college. So how will sixth formers in the college maintain their connections with lower school pupils? And will junior students have access to the college facilities, or will it primarily serve as a space for sixth formers? Additionally, will juniors be permitted to visit the college to see older siblings or friends? And finally, do you anticipate the connection between lower sixth pupils and upper sixth pupils tightening or loosening as a result of the upper sixth moving to the college?
To further on from that, how will academic collaboration between the upper sixth and the lower sixth pupils be maintained? And how will the college concept impact new lower sixth members as they spend 1 year in the vertical house system and then 1 year in the new upper sixth boarding house?
Okay, we absolutely want the college to promote integration into the sort of life of the whole school community. So the idea is that it'll be a very aspirational environment at the heart of the school for junior pupils who look forward to joining, while also being an exciting facility and community for all sixth formers. So I think while the college will essentially be for sixth form pupils for the majority of the time, we certainly plan for there to be formal events and activities arranged for lower school pupils at times, so they can engage with and use those facilities. We're also going to explore the possibility of welcome spaces where sixth form pupils can meet informally with pupils, including siblings, in younger years should they so wish. It's a very good question around that interaction with lower school pupils, and I think all sixth form pupils will continue to interact each day with lower school pupils through the wider co-curricular programme. Lots of activities we do bring different year groups together. Also through their roles in pupil leadership across a range of contexts in the school community. Lower sixth pupils will certainly be very much connected to the lower school pupils in their vertical houses, and obviously through that involvement in the wider curricular programme. And upper sixth pupils will, of course, have built connections with lower school pupils in the time that they spent in their vertical houses over the previous years. And they will, of course, continue to see the lower sixth each and every day in the college hub. So that sort of connection across the different year groups will remain very strong. And the co-curricular programme will be a key part of that. Pupil leadership will be a key part of that. Relationships built through vertical houses will be part of that. As and when the upper sixth move, obviously, those connections will continue. And as I've mentioned before, we'll certainly be looking at a whole series of events and activities that keep upper sixth connected to their vertical houses with that house spirit. So I think those things will be tight. And that is something that will evolve and that pupils will definitely have a major input into what those programmes look like and what the connections look like. So I think the College Hub, as we've said, is a facility for all sixth form pupils and will promote those connections across the whole sixth form. And in terms of sort of leadership, we're going to look a little bit at that later, I know, but the idea is that the house pupil leader in the lower sixth will then become the college vertical house liaison pupil leader in the upper sixth, and will work very closely with the new lower sixth house pupil leader to plan and organise those activities which maintain bonds and connections between upper sixth in the college and lower sixth in the and indeed other years in the vertical houses. We talked a little bit there about new pupils joining in the lower sixth, and I think for those joining Canford in the sixth form, this structure is going to provide a smaller social and pastoral base in the vertical house for that first year as they find their feet. And for existing pupils, of course, going from fifth form to lower sixth, it will retain that physical, emotional familiarity of the vertical house in that first phase of their sixth form journey. But then that transition to the college in the upper sixth will really broaden their network socially and in lots of other ways as they have those opportunities to engage with a far wider body of pupils across their year group when they're in the college.
Perfect. So one of our final themes kind of surrounds leadership roles and how that's going to change with the college coming in.
Some questions have included, how will the current pupil leader system be transferred to the college, if at all? And how will pupil leadership roles in houses, might that be prefects, heads of houses, be impacted by the college?
And also, if you could talk a bit more on some of the positive and possible drawbacks to the lower sixth leading this linear house system, and how this will impact the role model status of the upper sixth form as they're no longer present in the vertical houses.
Yeah, I think we all agree that pupil leadership is a really crucial part of the Canford community and its development, and you guys have embodied that over the past months. That leadership involves both formal and informal leadership at all levels, and indeed across a range of different aspects of school life, and it includes both bigger and more obvious initiatives alongside small and less obvious day-to-day decision-making and behaviour. I think the current pupil leader system evolves each year, but it is working effectively, and the plan is to keep the key threads of that in place. So as a result of the new college structure, with the upper sixth year group moving out of the vertical house accommodation, the lower sixth will certainly have enhanced opportunities for leadership and progression in their vertical houses. I've worked in a school where that model was absolutely fantastic in the past, and people really stood up when they were given the opportunity. This will be supported by bespoke training on leadership, mentoring and coaching. And lower sixth pupils actually already engage very actively and significantly with both formal and informal leadership, both in the house and indeed in the wider school context already. So we have plenty of evidence that lower sixth pupils can do that brilliantly. The lower sixth will have designated responsibilities in their vertical houses during that lower sixth year. And indeed, as I've said, they're already involved in a lot of that, as they are in wider activities such as in academic enrichment and CCF and D&V, attend tours, sport, music, drama, much more. So the new structure will simply build on that involvement in leadership more actively through that lower sixth year. And in schools, as I say, which have a structure such as this, the lower sixth invariably do stand tall and grow swiftly and effectively in relation to how they lead others successfully. Timing-wise, the main change will involve vertical house leadership roles being taken on by the lower sixth pupils early in their lower sixth year. It's likely to see perhaps half a term of on-the-job experience, work experience and assessment at the start of the Christmas term, with perhaps those formal vertical house appointments for lower sixth being made at half-term in that Christmas term for the rest of the lower sixth year. I think the house pupil leader system, as I've said, where the lower sixth house pupil leader moves to the college, they'll keep a formal role in terms of connecting with their old vertical house and the new pupil leader there in the year below them. So that should give some connectivity as well. In terms of the wider ranging pupil school leader roles, which exist around environment, EDI and a whole range of other whole school areas, the application selection process for that will be as now, where we have a selection process for that in the Easter term, lower sixth appointees applying and interviewing and taking over from the upper sixth pupil leaders at the start of their summer term. And those are then appointed, they'll continue that through to the beginning of their final term in the upper sixth. So that mirrors the current process really, and I think that continues to give both continuity and connection across the whole school community.
Thank you. And our last major theme is about social life for the sixth form, and these questions have particularly come from the lower years who are intrigued about what changes they will see in their sixth form life.
So how will expectations and freedoms change within the college compared to in the traditional houses? And how will the upper sixth pupils' lodges or the rooms be arranged in the college to ensure a balance of productivity and socialising?
We've also had a number of questions about kind of social spaces and that kind of structure. So will there continue to be designated areas for specific house year groups, such as lodges or corridors exclusively for dormitories? And will there be separate social spaces for upper sixth boarding pupils in the college? And if so, kind of what does that look like? Will these be mixed or separate for male and female pupils in each wing?
Yeah, I think it's important to differentiate between the college hub, which will be a whole sixth form facility, as well as containing the upper sixth day pupil lodges, and the two what will be single-sex college residential wings. I think all sixth formers will be able to use and enjoy the hub facilities and the opportunities that those provide educationally and socially. So that's lower sixth and upper sixth, mixing each and every day. And in terms of the leadership of that, I mean, the three sections of the upper sixth year group, day boarding boys and boarding girls, will be overseen and led and managed by the college pastoral dean, who will have direct responsibility for the upper sixth day pupils, as well as oversight of all the pastoral stuff within the college for the upper sixth. And the two assistant pastoral deans, one will oversee boarding boys and one boarding girls in their wings. The upper sixth pupils, they will certainly still have clear expectations around living our values in terms of academic productivity, active engagement with the wider co-curricular programme, and personal development opportunities, which I think make a Canford education really powerful. School rules around conduct and behaviour will be as they are now. We are still in a school, and essentially, till you've sort of left school, you are, that we have to be mindful. We have regulations and compliance to requirements to meet in that regard. But the idea, obviously, is that there will be scope for some different approaches, different types of activities and timings in the evenings when there aren't younger pupils around in the college residential wings and so on. So, as I said, the upper sixth day pupils, they'll be based in the hub. They'll have dedicated lodges and desks and storage spaces and changing facilities, and they can use all the rest of those hub facilities. For the upper sixth boarding pupils, they again will have access to the college hub facilities throughout the day and in the evenings. And then they'll be resident in one of those two single-sex residential wings. Their rooms there will be singles, they'll be en suite, there are a number of kitchens and small sitting room areas scattered throughout the two residential wings. And then they'll also have a larger entrance hall sort of social area which will be open to visitors. As with the houses currently, the rest of that residential wing will be off limits to those visiting beyond the entrance space. So they will be sort of, the rest of that building like now will be for the residents only who are living in there. So they will be strictly single sex. There will be obviously flexibility there for both upper sixth day and boarding pupils around lodge and room arrangements to allow vertical house groups to stay closely located. So if you've had a really tight-knit group coming through your boarding house and you want to stay close together physically within the residential wing or likewise in the day lodges, then that can absolutely be requested and followed through. Equally, if perhaps it's better to change and adjust the group dynamic, then again there's scope there to spread that out a little bit and to change the chemistry a little bit, and give people that opportunity. But you're still going to have obviously a far broader network of people to engage with, both in the residential wing and for the upper sixth day pupils in their lodges. So as I said, the concept really is there in that upper sixth is to broaden networks and integration across the whole sixth form and indeed in the upper sixth itself.
Thank you for that. So we've now just got a few quick fire questions which we couldn't quite categorise into different themes. So what is the environmental impact of building the college?
Yeah, I think the building has been designed to be as environmentally friendly as possible. One example of that, as you may well have seen, is the sinking of several ground source geothermal heat pumps, which will provide a significant amount of energy for the college hub and the two residential wings. There are other very sort of environmentally focused design elements to the building itself as well. So very much part of the planning and design.
The opportunities the college concept brings are vast, but what do you see to be the biggest challenge with the transition from current school life to the college concept?
Yeah, essentially it will be managing people's attitude and approach to change. People don't like change as a rule. The vast majority of us, I think, like things to be as they are, especially when that's felt comfortable. But I think the reality is that things change around us, and if we aren't tuned into that and we get complacent, we get caught out. To give a bit of, as a historian, a bit of historical insight into that, I've read some absolutely fascinating governing body minutes from Canford back in the early 90s, where the governors were debating the option of going co-educational. Let's say around 30 years ago. It was clearly a very feisty and hard-fought debate. Fortunately, those in favour of going co-ed won through, and Canford thrived and has continued to thrive as a consequence. And I think it's certainly a much better school and a far stronger community for that very significant change. So I think, we have to be mindful of the world around us and of change, and our willingness to engage with them and embrace that. Obviously, change needs to be carefully considered as far as possible, but it is critical, and that does need a change of mindset, perhaps away just from what is familiar, and that can be tough for many of us. There's a lovely novel by Tomasi di Lampedusa, The Leopard, which was published in 1958 and is considered to be one of the most important novels in modern Italian literature. Chronicled Sicily's resistance to change during the Risorgimento, which was where Italy was unified in the 1860s, and it marked the end of the aristocracy's privileges in Italy. And in the book, he states that if we want things to stay as they are, things will have to change. I think those are powerful, pertinent words, which are echoed by John F. Kennedy, when he said, "Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past and present are certain to miss the future." So I hope that gives a bit of insight into what I think will be the biggest challenge, but why it's an important one to overcome.
Thank you. So moving on to sort of the excitement surrounding the college, undeniably kind of excitement's going to increase as we draw nearer to the opening. But what particular aspect of the college concept are you most excited about?
I think that is undoubtedly the opportunity to put in place opportunities and experiences that I think will far better prepare Canfordians for what lies beyond the gates. And that development, I think, brings what I like to term constructive disruption, where it's getting people used to change, used to adjusting to perhaps sort of different things, but in a really supportive environment. Because when people step out of Canford, they're going to have to get to grips with a lot of change very, very quickly. So if we can do some things that in that supportive environment help them to get used to change, that's going to stand them in good stead in due course.
And Mr. Vessey, how do you feel the college concept makes Canford more attractive to prospective parents?
Well, interestingly, most of the prospective parents that I've spoken to actually really embrace the college concept, and I think the rationale behind it, and that came through very strongly in the survey we did of prospective parents a year or so ago when we first launched the concept idea. I think they felt very strongly that aside from the new facilities, the preparation for the challenges of future life and the more bespoke upper sixth experience, plus the opportunities to integrate and broaden your networks across the sixth form would be really, really valuable. I think I appreciate that, for current parents and indeed current pupils, what is comfortable. But I go back to what I said earlier about embracing change and that it's a really important thing and often can deliver great things.
Thank you for your insight. It's been very helpful. What do you think Old Canfordians' initial reaction will be when seeing the college concept for the first time?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a question I've been asked by a lot of Old Canfordians from many different generations. And initially, there has certainly been some uncertainty in some quarters. I think people obviously look back to their own experience, and again, it comes back to that concept of change, isn't it? And it's hard to grasp. I think what's really interesting is when I've actually explained the rationale and how that's going to play out on the ground, and the sort of thinking that's going into maintaining the house spirit, keeping the integration and the involvement, as well as exploring those opportunities for future preparation and challenge. People get it for the most part. Obviously not everybody, but the majority I've spoken to really get it. And I think particularly perhaps amongst those who are in the older generations, actually, where they have seen a lot of change in the school over the decades, and I think they really recognise how a lot of that change over recent and indeed more distant times has made the school much stronger and a much more successful and vibrant and warm community.
Yeah, I think that's everything for the questions we have today. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for your leadership over the past year and for pulling those questions together. And I hope what we've been over will be of use and will be of interest to those who perhaps have raised those questions. So thank you very much indeed, all of you.